The hacker one has lower, so it has to be last react. Bet. We're gonna do this one first. Let's get started. Get your water, get your snacks. I ain't gonna lie. I almost choked on that. Pause. Y'all weird. Get your water, get your snacks. Yo, my Vaseline is running out, bro. Look how little is left. I got no Vaseline left, bro. I'm out here hitting, it's like hitting the roach on a blunt, bro. I'm out here fiending for that last little bit. Look at this shit, bro. I'm fiending. I need to get new Vaseline, bro. You feel me? You can't see it because it's green, but shout out the green screen. You dig what I'm saying? Vaseline. Aloe vera Vaseline. Fuck with me. Oh, wait, I think I could do this. No, I can't. Yo, I thought if I put it behind me, that shit could show. I'm dumb. But word, Vaseline, aloe vera. Shout out Amazon. They got the packs in 4. They got the packs in 12s. I'm about to cop the 12 because 4 wasn't enough with my ashy ass lips. All right, y'all ready for this? Let's run it. We got straight to the story.
Hiking across the Canadian forest, the group of high school boys were on the verge of a mental breakdown. They had just spotted a DEA van stalking them in the woods because inside these kids' backpacks was over 400 pounds of weed. You see, these weren't your average high schoolers.
Right,
Had
explain.
a smuggling empire that had brought in 17,000 pounds of weed, and their parents would kill them if they ever found out. Undetected, the boys dropped to the floor to find a way around it. But Nate Norman, the leader of the group, shushed the others and flicked his night vision goggles to get a closer look and began
Bro, this is some movie shit. I'm sorry to cut it off. We talking about night goggles is crazy. How many pounds of that Lala? How many pounds of that Lala?
Of a mental breakdown. They had just spotted a DEA van stalking them in the woods because inside these kids' backpacks was over 400
pounds of the Za. High schoolers with the night goggles is crazy, bro. Nah. What is this, GTA?
Pounds of weed. You see, these weren't your average high
Why them good? Let me know.
Kids had a smuggling empire that had brought in 17,000 pounds of weed, and their parents would kill them if they ever found out. Undetected, the boys dropped to the floor to find a way around it. But Nate Norman, the leader of the group, shushed the others and flicked his night vision goggles to get a closer look and began smirking at what he saw. These DEA agents they were so afraid of that could end everything that night were asleep in their van this entire time. And as the boys snuck by and made it home safely that night, Nate Norman, the leader of the group, had just made the easiest money he'd ever made in his life, $500,000. In 2001, 2 rival groups...
$500,000 in high school is crazy, bro. Bro, I was making like $200 a month in high school and I thought I was rich. Are you shitting me, bro? $500,000 in high school? Wildin'. I'm dropping out.
Groups of high school nerds became the biggest drug smugglers in the United States, evading the DEA, FBI, and Border Patrol for years. They had smuggled in 17,000 pounds of weed, making $32 million.
Damn!
Jealousy, betrayals, and shady deals. Their empires would fall apart before any of them could legally drink. This is the true story of the nerdy teens who became drug kingpins. Now, Nate Norman wasn't exactly a criminal mastermind as a bro.
Look, I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop it. I'm not gonna pause again. But bro, if one run, bro, and I make what they made in one run, 50,000, I'm good off that. One time only. I'm good off that. I'm going home. I'm chilling for the rest of my life. I'm up 50 G's. Maybe I'll do it 2 or 3 times. You know, maybe get 100, 200 under my belt. 500K is wild, bro. If bro, in one go, bro, I mean, it's 500K in total. You got to divide it by how many of them was there. Let's say it showed 5. It was 500K each, bro. 100K is crazy. I'm retiring. High school, I'm gone. I got more money than my school. I got more money than my teacher. What does she have to teach me, bro? She have nothing to offer. 500K. High school, I'm gone. I'm gone, bro. I'm going straight to DR. Fuck you talking about?
19-year-old high school dropout working at Pizza Hut living in his mom's basement in Idaho, the closest he'd ever gotten to organized crime was watching Scarface on cable. Because with no degree and a dead-end job, the American dream felt so far away for Nate Norman. Changed one day when Nate and his buddy Topher were smoking a J, flipping through Times magazine, and stumbled across a story that would change their lives forever. Canada had the best weed in the world, BC buds, and smuggling BC buds across the border? Oh, it's a $7 billion business. Wait a sec, Nate thought. Idaho's right next to the Canadian border.
Bro, what?
Now, people knew Nate delivered pizzas around town. He also delivered sacks. Although Nate's prices were high and his bud quality sucked. But knowing that the best buds in the entire world were just a few hours away, oh, Nate could sell the hell out of it if he could just get his hands on it. So that's when he turned to Topher and said, we should become international drug smugglers. Now, while this idea of a criminal enterprise sounds great to a 19-year-old, a pound of weed costs money, and they were both broke. Pizza Hut didn't
Right.
do great, and Topher worked
How you got
part-time
the
at
money?
Castle Park. But Topher, believing in his best friend Nate, sold an old boat he had dragged out of the lake for $1,400, and assuming that was enough to buy a pound of weed, the two head on to Canada with what was their life savings. But after
$1,400 for a boat is crazy.
Canada was not what they thought it was. See, High Times made it seem like people sold pounds of weed on the side of the road, but it really just looked like the US, except kilometers. What the fuck? So empty-handed, after hours of searching for a vendor, the two head into a Canadian bar to at least make the trip worthwhile. Maybe Nate's plan was too ambitious, he thought. It almost seemed too easy. But old man Frankie, a regular at the bar, gestured at the two Americans sticking.
It's always the OG. Look at this guy. He on meth for sure.
Would you help us procure a pound of flowers? 1 pound? Frankie said he had dozens, of Canada's finest, but it was all back at his apartment. And while Nate and Topher tried to contain their excitement, thinking this was their big connect for BC buds, well, old man Frankie had just found his next victim.
Look at this guy's face. Fancy lace for meth. Look at this guy's face, bro. You're telling me this guy's a weed smoker, bro? He be shooting up. He be on God.
Frankie
I'm not trusting
just found
that.
His next victim.
This chair
inside
getting
the
me
Traffickers
tight.
apartment, the two realized Frankie actually seemed a bit sketch. But I mean, where else were they gonna go? They were desperate. How much cash you got? Frankie said. For $1,400. Is that enough for a pound? That's perfect. That's exactly what a pound costs, Frankie said. But as Nate opened up the bag to get a whiff of those BC buds he had traveled all this way for, Frankie tells him that wouldn't be wise. I mean, they didn't want to get caught from the smell. So without even weighing, smelling,
No
or
way
barely
this guy
looking
got.
at it, the two hand over what was their life savings to a sketchy grandpa they just met at a seedy Canadian bar. And with the pound of BC buds in hand, they begin the hardest part now, trying to get home. Now, according to High Times, the Canadian border is 5 times longer than the Mexican one. But there's no fence. I mean, you walk in the woods, next thing you know, you crossed international lines. And while thousands of
That's
smugglers
crazy.
in horse trailers, snowmobiles, sailboats, hollowed out logs, hell, even underground tunnels, hiking weed across the border was just the easiest, but also the riskiest. So the plan? Nate was gonna drive back home by himself, while Topher would smuggle their precious cargo, hiking 11 kilometers across the Canadian wilderness filled with bears.
7 miles is crazy.
Hours later, with dirt on his face, Topher saw his first sign of American civilization. Outback Steakhouse, where there's no rules. It's just right. With Nate parked outside, Topher hopped in for a celebratory smoke of their freshly smuggled BC buds. It seemed like the plan had worked. It had all gone well. But after the first hit, something was off. This wasn't the creme de la creme BC buds. No, Frankie had sold them Mexican brickweed at BC bud prices. Or in other words, this should have been $400 a pound, not $1,400. Frankie had sold them buds that were grown in Mexico, smuggled into the US, smuggled into Canada, and then smuggled back down to the United States. And that's when they learned you can't trust anyone in the game.
No
Even
shit.
Asians, the elderly, and the weak. But luckily enough, the weed drought in Idaho was so bad they could actually still make money on this. Nate hit up his old friend Scuzz to have him sell it on the streets, and Scuzz was a connected dude even at 18 years old. Selling it to every hood rat in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Days later, Scuzz came back with $2,800, double what they had bought it for. And with his business model proven to work, Nate turned to Topher and said, High Times was right. Why doesn't everyone do this? Because according to their calculations, Nate and Topher were shocked to find out they could make $3 million in just 14 months by doubling their money with every smuggling run. And to them, that seemed like enough. Because with $3 million in hand, the two could buy homes, start a business, and leave the game while they were ahead. Because when drug dealers get caught, it's always because they get too greedy and give
Facts.
themselves away. But that wasn't gonna.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I hit that bitch once, maybe twice, 3 times max, and I'm done. I'm out of here, bro. I'm out. I'm living. I'm chilling. Are you crazy? Come on now.
To be them. They promised to themselves no guns, no girls, nothing flashy. But little did they know that once you're in the game, there's no easy exits. Because while the rewards are great, the risks are even greater. With 1 pound became 2, became
What year
4,
was
became
this?
8, and Nate was growing more comfortable driving thousands of dollars through the Canadian checkpoint, flashing a little disarming wave and a little lip smile. But today, as he coasted through the Canadian checkpoint driving the crest in Canada, Nate really thought about it. This was the ticket out for him. He didn't need college. Hell, with a few more smuggle runs, he could buy his mom a car, and if he found a good grower,
This shit gotta be like the
Nate
80s.
big bucks. But then in
Facts.
his rearview mirror, he spotted those Canadian red and blue lights. Sirens grew louder. Nate Norman was getting pulled over by the cops. With American license plates, he knew he stuck out like a sore thumb. As the Mountie parked his car and stepped out, every step he took, Nate could only think about how more he was. But as he rolled down his window, the Mountie said, "So, hey, you guys smuggling?" "Well, because you're not going to get any flour going to Creston. It's a bunch of loggers. You need to go to Nelson. Don't speed. This is a little warning." Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. Hey yo, what the fuck? Hold up. What? The cops that ass just pointing him the right direction, talking about, yo, don't get it from this block, get it from this other block is better. The boys did that. Nah.
Even a tip on where to find the holy grail of BC buds.
Nah.
Canada was way different than the United States. Now, bigger than tourism, logging, hell, even maple syrup. In 2001, BC Buds was a $7 billion a year business in Canada, and Nelson was the capital of it. But why? Well, Canada had some of the most relaxed bud laws in the world at the time.
I generally feel there's a slightly more humanitarian government around here. It's not into putting people away for the rest of their life for their choice of herbs.
And hydroponic stores that sold tomato growing.
Hey yo, so weed was legal back then? Weed was legal back in those days? Cause he just said 2001. So you telling me in Canada 2001, these motherfuckers was making billions of dollars on herbs while we was getting bombed? It's crazy. Nah.
Equipment sprawled all around the city, and the result was the golden age of BC buds that were sought all around the world. And for Nate, this is what High Times was talking about. So walking into several Canadian hydroponic stores, Nate finally found the real BC bud growers that could get him the product to bring down serious weight to the
Hey yo, that motherfucker ugly.
the real BC bud growers that could
Hey yo, that motherfucker ugly, bro. Why he look like that? I'm sorry. He probably got a disease or something, but look at his face, bro. He look like an NPC from an RPG character. Tell me no, bro. Tell me no, bro. He look like from Mice and Men. What's his name from Mice and Men? Nah, bugging. Chill.
could get him the product.
R.I.P. He probably dead.
Weight to the United States. And for Nate, the money would begin pouring in, while millions of Americans were just baked out of their minds with Cottonmouth. But not anymore. With today's sponsor, Arab.
Shut up.
Coming. Now there is no downside. Hired, have yourself some flavor. On a typical run, Nate and Topher waited until dark and drove within a mile of the border on a remote access road, where Topher, dressed in all camo, would leap out and disappear into the trees. But instead of Nate driving the money over the border, Topher was carrying a hockey bag stuffed with cash for over 7 miles, would exchange with the growers directly in Canada, head back down to America. While back in the States, he would hand the bag off to Nate, who would hand it off to Scuzz, who would hand it off to hundreds of dealers. And for all of this, Topher made $1,000 with each run, while Nate by this point had pocketed over 100.
Nah, see, that's where you fucked up, bro. That's where you fucked up. That's where you fucked up. This is what happens, bro. This is what happens when you don't treat your partner like a partner, bro. My man's is doing this shit every run, 7 miles. Is it 7 miles back and forth or 7 miles each way? Fuck it, let's say 14 miles. And he's only getting a rack, 1G for the run. This is where people fuck up. And this is why people end up getting shot, bro. Like, you can't treat your partner like a bitch. You feel me? You can't just do that, bro. Come on now. 150 per run versus 1K per run for the guy that's actually doing the run. This guy's just driving back and forth with nothing on him. He gets stopped. What happened? He's getting pointed into the right direction. Now your man's over here doing all the hard work, the labor. He's only getting a rack. I know he was the one to do it. He probably snitched. He probably upped it on him. Whatever happened that went wrong, it was Topher because of this fuckboy up here. Facts. I could tell the future.
More money than he'd ever seen in his lifetime. You see, BC buds were in demand, and Nate's operation needed to expand. With serious money coming in, the boys got serious about their methods. Topher hired friends from high school to help him run since these hauls were too heavy for just one dude. By now, it was 6 Toyota 4Runners filled with runners that would head towards the border drop point where they would all change in the camo, slip out into the trees carrying hockey bags full of cash, up to 400 grand. Now, while months earlier they all said they wouldn't be flashy with their money, slowly they all began to get the things they had always wanted. 4-wheelers, jet skis, plasma screen TVs, mini disc players, whatever they got, it was the most expensive version of it. Scuzz moved out of his mom's basement and told her he was renting a little crappy apartment, but in reality, he bought a lakeside home. Nate began throwing elaborate lingerie parties, inviting half of the town nearly every other week. And while as the boss, Nate should have been keeping tabs on who was too loud, well, Nate was actually the worst offender. Nate bought himself a
not getting your mama house is crazy, bro. That's the first thing you do when you get rich. I don't care what you say to me, bro. The first thing you do when you get rich is buy your mama house, period.
8-bedroom mansion, several stash houses, an Escalade with 24-inch rims, diamond chains, Dom Perignon, Gatson straps, and 8 balls of nose candy. And like most drug dealers, became convinced he would become a rapper, so he bought studio time with this drug money.
I can't wait to hear that.
Wild. Nate had found a lovely girlfriend that he had met at a church event. Just kidding, she was a stripper, and her name was Buffy. And Nate showered her with all of the jewelry, Gucci bags, trips to Cabo. And as foolish as it was to draw all of this attention to himself, Nate had just never been cool in his life. He just couldn't resist it. While his
look at him.
Friends used to call him the Keebler elf growing up, those same friends were now working for Nate. But when Nate's mom asked him where he was getting all of this cash from, well, he told her it was his snowplow business. And then bought her a lakeside home, and she never asked again. You see, Nate had been a paper boy, a telemarketer, cashier, pizza man, but he learned that the only get-rich-quick scheme that actually works in this world is selling drugs, and Nate was damn good at it. A year later, the crew had swelled to 32 people, and they're moving thousands of pounds all over the country. Nate's janky operation? Nah, it transformed into a well-oiled machine. But even then, they still had problems. One night, the runners walked into DEA agents sleeping in their truck in the forest. On a 14-below winter night, they'd lost sight of the trail and nearly froze to death in the dark. Now, the drive home was arguably the
freezing to death for $1,000 is crazy.
Riskiest part of the entire run. So Nate began rigging all of the 4Runners with explosives, so if they ever got pulled over by the American cops, they could just set the weed on fire. You see this?
Bro, rigging with explosive on your own mans is crazy, bro. What? So question, is he rigging his vehicle too? Is he gonna explode his vehicle too? Or that's just his man's? Hold up, rigging with explosive is crazy. I'm not even mad at them for snitching on him. I'm not mad at them. I know that's what's gonna end up happening.
Prison. I mean, this is 2002 after all. But to calm the runners' anxiety over moving thousands of pounds of buds across the country committing federal felonies, Nate Pinky promised them that if they ever were arrested, just give him a call from the jail, he would pay for their bail and their attorneys, and it would all be good. But Topher grew nervous with this flashy lifestyle and growing operation. He begged to get out of the game, but Nate joked he would never stop until the cops got him, because in his mind, he could just pay for the best attorneys to get him out. So why not go hard? Because that $3 million goal, nah, that's what Nate now made in a month.
Damn.
So to shut Topher up, he raised his pay to $8,000 a run, locking his best friend, the guy that had helped him start this entire thing, in golden handcuffs. But Topher's fears almost came true when a fight broke out over a girl at a 150-person party the crew was hosting. One of Nate's dealers shot a gun in the air to break up the fight, but nobody even heard it. So Nate, plastered as hell, shot off a .45 Magnum into the house. The crowd began screaming, everyone scattered, the neighbors called the cops, cars sped off and crashed into the fences, and Scuzz got pulled over on his way home with 20 grand in his pocket, nearly peeing in his pants. The cops, they let him go. And then the next night they threw another party at the same house, equally as crazy. See, they felt invincible. They were rich. They were cool. And by now, the cops either didn't know about their operation or just didn't even care. In Nate's eyes, nobody had gotten hurt. Nobody had gotten caught. Maybe this could just go on forever. At 3 a.m., Nate gets a frantic call. Scuzz was robbed by 3 masked men. They broke inside of his home, held him at gunpoint, and wanted to know where was the cash and the buds, or else one of the burglars, Giovanni, was going to chop his finger off. Now, for Scuzz, handing them 40 grand in cash and a couple pounds in buds wasn't the end of the world, but Nate had seriously ruffled someone's feathers because they knew not just what they were up to, but also where they lived. Now, Nate Norman wasn't the only teenager in Idaho who had an enterprise of smuggling in BC buds. Nicknamed Wang, he was born in Korea and adopted by insurance executives in Idaho. And Wang had grown up with a perfect life. He played the violin, honorable student, but at 17 years old, the kid broke bad. See, Wang began running his own wildly successful bud smuggling.
See, I don't get this shit, bro. Why do people do that, bro? Why do people, they got the good life growing up and everything, right? Good parents, they make money, honor student. Now all of a sudden you want to turn down to the streets? You want to turn to the streets, bro? That makes no sense to me.
Operation, transforming from the Kumon kid into a wankster driving an Eldorado lowrider, popping oxys and snorting yay all day long. In many ways, Wang was a lot like Nate, a nerdy teen who just grew into a drug kingpin, but he was also Nate's polar opposite. You see, Wang wasn't satisfied in pulling in millions with his friends. Hell no. He wanted the whole market. Now, Nate knew of Wang and other dealers in town, but figured there was so much money in the game that everyone could eat good. But no, Wang's thriving business had been falling apart since Nate's arrival, and Wang was growing desperate to gain back his market share. Sniffling his nose after racking a couple lines, Wang called up his old roommate Giovanni for a little job proposal, a hit job, to take out Nate Norman, promising to pay $100,000 for the job with a $5,000 down payment up front that he would get him later. Giovanni, a dude who had never committed a crime in his life.
That shit don't make sense to me. Hold up. This chair's bugging, bro. Fuck. So this man just said, I'm gonna give you $100K and I'm gonna give you $5K down payment, but I'm gonna give it to you later. It's not a down payment if you have to give it to me later, bro. What?
Said, why not? So Giovanni called his friends and headed to the Kmart to buy supplies for the hit job. A tarp, gloves, windbreakers. Wang gave him a couple handguns and for good measure, a knife as well. Since Giovanni thought, well, you can't have fingerprints if you don't have fingers.
Right.
Now, Wang figured it'd be a really simple job. To exonerate himself on the night of the hit, he threw himself an alibi party to be seen by as many people as not murdering Nate. But instead of Giovanni doing the hit that night, they broke into Skuz's apartment, stealing the pounds of bud and $40K in cash, because Giovanni still hadn't received that $5,000 down payment yet. So we thought, why not make some extra money robbing Nate's crew first and then murdering Nate? Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Now, when Nate heard about Skuz's robbery, he figured it was the cartel or maybe some other gangbangers in town, but he didn't even realize he was in a turf war with the only other nerdy kingpin in town, Wang. And for the first time, Nate was truly spooked. He moved out of his house. He rented another one across town. He started sleeping with a loaded handgun under his pillow. And Nate would try to lay low the rest of that summer, moving in with Buffy. But after breaking both of his arms flipping over his dirt bike, Nate developed a serious addiction to painkillers. And even worse, Buffy couldn't even take care of him.
Breaking both your arms is crazy. You know how easy it is to rob you with no arms?
Because she'd gotten a boob job. Nate was living in fear, addicted to painkillers, and worst of all, his girlfriend had really big boobs. On November 13, 2002, a lumberjack discovers a murdered boy.
The editing's hella good
identify
facts.
the boy as Brendan Butler.
I could never do some shit like this.
Cops, he had played the violin. He was an honorable student, a traditional good boy. I mean, who the hell would end his life? But digging further, the cops discover Brendan Butler lived a double life. Under the nickname of Wang, he was a big-time dealer distributing buds all over the United States, and that his #1 business rival was Nate Norman. Now, when the headlines broke of Wang's death, Nate told his crew, who was questioning him about it, that he had no involvement in it. But I mean, who really knew at this point? Nate had transformed from a pizza delivery driver living in his mom's basement to a kingpin with a smuggling empire that even the cartel was jealous of. It just didn't seem out of the question that Nate could be involved, but Nate was having bigger problems to fry. Now, that month, some of Nate's dealers got picked up by the cops, who found cash, drugs, and guns on him. Now, from jail, the dealers took their customary one phone call, and that's when the cops heard them saying, "Tell Nate, I'm in jail." The DEA, the FBI, and Homeland Security now knew that Nate Norman was the guy behind this entire operation.
Damn, bro.
But what happened to Wang?
Bro, what happened to having code, bro? You need to have a code for, like, yo, you know what I'm saying? This pizza has pineapples. You feel me? Why the fuck you just out here saying names like that? Fuck, this shit is gonna piss me off.
Brendan Butler. Now you see, Wang had no idea his own hitmen were pissed off at him. He was so coked out and on drugs, he literally forgot he owed them money. So withholding that $5,000 for months, Wang took Giovanni and his crew to the forest where he wanted Nate's body to be buried when the murder was done. Now there, Giovanni asked him again for the down payment. Wang said, "Don't worry about it, bro." Giovanni got pissed. Wang told him to chill out. Giovanni grabbed Wang by the neck, squeezing harder and harder. Wang, hardly able to talk,
He
begged
killed
for his
him?
life. But Giovanni did not know how to stop what he had started. Choking Wang to death, Gio slashed his throat to hide the...
Yo! This man killed him for 5K. Yo! Nah. What the fuck?
fingerprints, took the cash on him, and left Wang's body on the exact spot that Nate's body was supposed to be buried. But now with the body being found and the murder and the fingers and the money, Nate knew it was probably time to step out of the game. Now, with the heat on Nate's crew thinking that he could be responsible for Wang's murder, all of the runners would meet at a stash house at dawn to pack up all of their things and skip out of town. But instead, when they got there, they kicked around, smoking weed, reminiscing on the good
Ande el
times.
diablo,
Right then
bro.
and there, across 4 states, serving 6 warrants, the FBI arrested runners, managers, dealers, everyone, except for Nate Norman. You see, while the cops had been tracking Nate Norman ever since Wang's murder, somehow he had outwitted the FBI, the DEA, Homeland Security for months, the same way
Damn.
he had avoided Giovanni. But without Nate there to pay off his crew's bail and all of their attorney fees, one by one, they all began to rat out Nate Norman and
Facts.
reveal the entire operation. But once Nate heard the feds had turned the crew on one another and told them all they were all going to go to jail for a very long time unless they got everyone, Nate Norman walked into the police station and the cops...
Hey, what you guys doing in that situation? You snitching on Nate? You switching on your mans, or you holding it down? Let's talk about it. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you. I called it. Look at the way he was treating them, bro. We talking about 1K per run while he was getting 150, bro. And they were doing all the dirty work. You're getting snitched on. Top of that, he ain't freed them. He ain't freed the boys. From the beginning, bro, I could tell they were gonna snitch, bro. That's why you gotta take care of your peoples, bro. You can't treat your people like bums, bro. 1K per run is crazy, bro.
Cops could not believe their eyes. They were expecting a hardened criminal mastermind, but they got a kid that used to deliver pizzas. Now, while the feds estimated 2,500 pounds were smuggled in reality, they had moved over 17,000 pounds of
Damn.
over the border, netting them $32 million.
32
Barely out of their teens,
for nothing.
Had embarrassed the United States government, and somebody was going to take the fall. Giovanni was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Brendan Butler. Scuzzy and
Damn.
Topher were given 2 years in the slammer, and Nate Norman would get 12 years. And a sick twist of fate, had it not went down the way it did, Nate probably wouldn't be alive. Today, Nate Norman's out of prison. He actively runs an AC business, and it seems like life for him is doing good.
Listen, bro, in AC business, you know damn well what he's doing, bro. Once a hustler, always a hustler. AC business is just a cover up. This is what happens when you don't treat your peoples right, bro. It makes no sense to me, bro. Like, if you're gonna do this shit, you have to at least think about it. And you don't even have to have it all down packed. You just have to make sure the relationship is gonna stay right. You feel me? 1K is crazy, bro. But like, I understand if he was getting like, let's say what's his name, Nate was getting like 20 G's and then the other guy was getting 15 G's, you know, something like that. But we talking about $149,000 in difference.